Okay, for this video we are going to attach the head and create the eye. I no longer need the hand templates, so we're going to take those out of there. Now, since I have done all of the symmetrical work that I need to do for the body, I'm going to right click on it, because you'll notice that right now it still has the mirror modifier on. I'm just going to convert this to an editable poly. That way it no longer has the mirror modifier on, but now that also means that if I change one side of the body, the other side is not going to change. So I'm going to turn NURMS off really quickly here. You know what? I already made a mistake. Notice how I converted it into an editable poly while NURMS was turned on? Now NURMS is permanent. Okay, so this time to make it so that NURMS is not permanent, I'm going to turn that off. Now go up to mirror. Now I'm going to convert that into an editable poly. Okay, now I can turn NURMS on or off as I wish. Now let's make the head appear. Now just like before, we want the head to become part of the body. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter the order now, just because we have, because they're both just editable polys. But let's rotate around on the head really quickly and let's make sure we have a hole that we can actually attach from. Well, it looks like we do not. Okay, so that means that I'm going to have to come in here and you're going to have to delete some polygons. Okay, so now this is going to give us 6 to work with. And if you notice the neck, it actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that 11 or did I count that twice? Now, if you look at the head, now if you look at the neck, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's 10. So that means we're going to need to have 4 more. Okay, so let's try something here. I'm going to cut across these polygons. Right there. So now that gives us 2 more there. And let's cut across here. Okay, so now I've got 2 there. I'm going to delete those polygons. And looking at the front viewport, I want to make sure that I have this head and that I'm able to move that down. So that it lines up with the neck. I think that'll work. Now I'm going to take this body. We're going to attach it to the head. Since I converted the body, if you remember with the head, I had to actually weld the vertices. I had not done that with the body yet. So what I need to do is I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to select the head as an element. And let's see here, this should be the top viewport. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Now I'm going to grab all of the vertices. Now I think that there's an option, and I'll have to see if I can figure it out, where you can tell it that when you convert it to an editable poly, I think you can make it automatically weld those. But since those vertices are actually in the exact same position as each other, you should notice it says 48 vertices selected. If I select weld, now it says 24. And that's because now the 2 halves of the body are actually welded. So now I can come back here to element. I can take the head. Let's move it back down. There we go. There are a couple vertices that I actually want to move from the neck to where the let's go ahead and make this a little bit more transparent. I want that vertex actually to be where that vertex is, because I want it to follow the head. I don't want the head to be flattened out like it is with the neck. So I'm going to put this in perspective mode. Let's rotate around, and I want this vertex to align with that one right there. And I will use target weld. And then I'll go ahead and do that with the rest of these. Just around the neck. You can always make adjustments later if you need to. Yeah, let's bring that one there. Okay, so it looks like I've welded all of the vertices now. I believe, yep. So now we're just going to make a couple of adjustments. Like, for example, I'm going to come over here, grab these two vertices. Let's bring this to the front viewport so that way I'm looking at it from this angle. And let's just bring those down. Everything else is fine. It looks like it's going to work all right. However, it does not like quads, so just to do myself a favor for later on, let's go ahead and cut. I'm sorry, it doesn't like five-sided shapes, pentagons. There we go. All right, so that should work. So now my head is attached to the neck. If I zoom out, you'll see we've got the full alien here. Hands are looking kind of small. Compared to the feet. To change that. Bothers me. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's not going to work. Oop. There we go. Let's grab these and yeah, that's fun. Can bring these back to local. All right, so he's got a massive hand now. Got to match his foot. Or his wrist is huge. Should just keep it with one really huge hand and one really small one. No, I'm not going to keep it that way. It's kind of funny though. Wow, that is a messed up hand right there. But that's okay. We're going to move it. Now, technically, if you wanted to avoid any problems down the road, you wouldn't really mess with this too much. And the reason for that is because it being symmetrical is going to make it a lot easier to skin later on when you actually go in and if you're going to ever copy bones, things like that. Now I'm going to have to actually do a few manual things because it's not going to line up perfectly if I do some copying. And yeah, that hand definitely looks different. Dude's just built different. I think that's pretty close. There, at least it looks like the hands are unnaturally small compared to the feet. Okay, so let's move on to the eye. For the eye, I'm just going to use a sphere. Oh. So for the eye, we're just going to have a sphere. Make sure you're in the front viewport. Make it round. And you can always alter its size if you need to. In fact, we are going to create a couple of hemispheres. So that's going to be the main eye. And just to get an idea of what it's going to really look like, let's go ahead and turn NURMS on. Let's move this eye forward a little. Let's get this nice gap across the Z to zoom into it, across the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to scale it out a little. But I'm going to hold down Shift so that I'm making a copy. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. We're going to call this top lid. And this one I'm going to actually make it go, let's make it go 180 degrees around. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees this way. It looks like I somehow have turned off my angle snap, so let's turn that back on. Okay, 90 degrees that direction. And I'm just going to angle it down a little here. Now that I have the rotate tool on, I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to rotate one around here to the bottom. This is going to be the bottom lid. And this is going to be the eye. Let's go ahead and make that fully opaque. And anytime I try to move around it, let's go ahead and turn off the template. We don't really need the hand template anymore. You know what, these lids, I think I want to make them a little bit more narrow so that it matches the eye socket. So I'm just going to scale it along the x-axis, but then I'm going to scale it back out on all of the axes. I'll scale it back out on the x-axis again. Since it's only going to be opening and closing from the front, it doesn't really need to be perfectly round. Or perfectly circular, but it does need to fill in those gaps. Okay, I'm not going to actually attach either of those to the body because I actually want them to operate individually. However, in order to make sure that they do operate individually, first of all, I'm going to select this body and I'm going to hold down Alt and right click on it and go freeze transform. I'm going to do the same thing for the eye. Now, supposedly what this does is it makes it so that it does not recall any of the previous positions that it has been in. Select the eye and the eyelids and link them to the head. That way, whenever the body moves, the eye and the eyelids are going to move along with it. Okay, so now I'm going to select the eye and we're going to go into the material editor. And now we're going to actually create a couple of materials and we want it to be Arnold compliant. So first of all, make sure that you go into render setup and make sure that you have the Arnold renderer selected. If you go into Arnold render, let's go to Arnold compliant, go to system, you can change the render device to GPU, and the fallback is the CPU. Okay, and then you can close out. Make sure that you save. So we are going to look under the Arnold category under materials. And if you go down to surface, since that's what we are creating, and we are going to make a standard surface. Now to make this eye, we want to have kind of a radial sort of appearance on the eye where it's going to utilize a gradient. So we actually have to go under maps, texture, and ramp RGB. Now we are going to attach that to the base color. Then we are going to apply that to the eye. Now it doesn't have any material in it yet. Well, it technically does have a material, but it's not the kind of material that we actually want. So let's play around with this ramp RGB a little bit. So I'm going to maximize this and let's take a look at these properties down here. Okay, right now it's just black and white. I want to actually add some blue into there so we can make him have blue eyes for no particular reason. You could use whatever eye color that you want. Now you'll see this curve. This curve is going to show how things are going to blend from the blue to the white into the black. Now if we take a look at the eye up here, and we also look at the eye in here, I'm going to change this to active shade using Arnold so that way you can actually see the effect it has on it. Notice how it looks a little strange. Well, first of all, you definitely want to make sure there's a UVW map on it. So that way you can tell it how it's going to be, how it's going to wrap around it. And I just set it to spherical because that makes sense. Now let's look at the different types. We've got U, set it to V. Notice how with V it actually is kind of making it go around. I'm going to turn edge faces off so that way we can see the effect a little bit better. It's kind of actually the effect that I'm looking for. But let's just take a look at what the other ones look like. So you've got diagonal, you've got radial, we've got circular, box, time. I think I'm going to stick with V. V actually looks like what I'm trying to do. However, that looks a little strange. It's not really the way I want that effect to play out. So I'm going to create another that I'm going to just make white. You'll notice that the curve is changing. Okay, so it's got a little bit of a foggy sort of appearance to it. Let's sharpen that up a little bit. You know, and I also want the area that's black to be a little bit more defined. Let's see if we can maybe change things. Yeah, so let's make that blue. Let's put another black one in here. Let's make that a little bit sharper. Okay, I like the way that looks. I think we'll go with that as far as the eye is concerned. But we have to create one more material. And again, to make it Arnold compliant, we are going to, let's close out maps. I'm going to go into Arnold under materials. Let's go into another standard surface. And this time I'm just going to change the base color. Let's go ahead and apply this to So we are going to go ahead and apply this material to the body. I'm going to turn this off just so that it doesn't crash on me. Let's go ahead and apply that, and we also want to apply it to the two eyelids since it's both, those are both going to have the same color. Now I can just come in here to the base color. Let's make this smaller so that you can actually see the alien change as we change the material color. Just come over here to base color and let's just make him red. Now if you turn on the active shade using Arnold, you'll be able to see how it renders. And you have completed the base model of the alien. You can render it to test it. After the initial rendering, it actually will render very quickly in Arnold using the settings that we chose.